Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the second weekend drop for Black Adam, looking to be around 55%, which for a massive budget superhero film is actually quite good. But what does this mean for the long-term box office haul for this movie? Because right now, it seems to be tracking along very similar lines, domestically at the very least, as to other films like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, both of which made just over $400 million worldwide. Black Adam, though, needing to make $500+ million in order to hit its break-even point. We still have to wait on the numbers. We have to wait on some projections on what the international community is going to be saying about the film, because that's going to be ultimately the make or break for this movie. But the domestic market is definitely not looking to be the saving grace for this movie, despite very positive ratings and, again, a pretty strong domestic hold at 55% in week number 2. We'll talk about this and a couple other films. Before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey, smash the rumble button as well. It really does help a lot. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and have that bell notification on. That way you know every time the video or live stream goes live on the channel. Also, as a special note, I will be going to the Orlando meetup, the Geeks and Gamers Friday Night Tights meetup on Sunday, this coming Sunday, Feast of Christ the King. I'll be driving down on Saturday, so driving down tomorrow, and then we'll be leaving Sunday. So I'll be there just really for the meetup itself, and then leaving pretty much right at the end of the second of the two meetups. So if you're going to be down there, let me know in the comment section, and hopefully we'll be able to have a conversation. I'll be bringing some rosaries down, some holy cards as well, just in case anyone may actually may want one. So again, come see me during that time if you are looking for one of those items. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about the box office. Black Adam, as I had mentioned at the very beginning, expected to drop 55% in its second week of release, which is really not all that bad, especially when you talk about a massive $200 million film. Most of these movies tend to drop well over 60%, and I think I mentioned this last weekend that this is pretty much where this film wanted to be. It's definitely not the best case scenario for the movie, definitely not exactly where it would want to be in the most idealistic situations, but this is just the domestic drop. This is not accounting for the international community. So if the international numbers are coming in a lot stronger and the worldwide drop ends up being a lot less than this, and you could still see some light at the end of the tunnel for this movie. But the reason why I bring up a word of caution and why I still think that there's a chance for Black Adam to cap out between $400 and $450 million is because of the very similar numbers it is getting compared to some other films. So for instance, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, what did this film see in its release? It saw a 59% drop from week 1 to week 2. Not only did it have a stronger opening weekend at $72 million versus the $67 million of Black Adam, but also it saw roughly the same amount of money in its second weekend, right? $23.9 million, whereas right now, the film Black Adam is projected to make around $30.4 million. And so we have obviously some very similar numbers there. Also, another film that I'm putting this up against is Shang-Chi, because Shang-Chi also had a stronger domestic opening weekend at $75 million, but also had a very similar drop at 54%. One of the reasons why Shang-Chi actually ended up being successful financially was because it had very strong legs, and specifically because of its performance in the domestic marketplace. Whereas I don't think that Black Adam is going to have nearly the same requirement, nearly the same reliance upon the domestic market as some of these other films do, because this is definitely a much bigger international property and international film. I do think, though, that the domestic numbers are still important for us to look at, because I think that when you look at films like, especially with Shang-Chi having a much stronger international presence than something like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, by chance, I think that is something that it's going to ultimately have to be coming into the actual discussion. As you see right now, we look at the actual numbers. It had a 73% drop on its first Monday. If you compare that over to the 77% drop on its first Monday for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Shang-Chi, I believe, had an extended weekend, and so it ended up having about a 66% drop on the non-holiday, as it were. And so you're seeing very similar numbers in that regard, in that respect. But again, Black Adam looking like it's going to be in a decent place, but really the ultimate question is how much drop does it see internationally? Obviously, it's getting a lot of positive fan reaction. I'm someone who was not that much of a fan of the movie. I thought it had a lot of problems. I thought that The Rock, just being The Rock once again in a film, It's only going to bring it so far. He does have that natural charisma that is definitely going to be able to draw in a lot of audiences, especially amongst the international community. But is it going to be enough to make up that massive $200 million budget? That is the ultimate question. And as of right now, it looks like to be tracking, and we'll have to, of course, compare the second weekend worldwide numbers, the second weekend international numbers, to those other two films, Shang-Chi and Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because both of those films were also likely going to be different outcomes as far as the international numbers are concerned compared to Black Adam, but that's still an if at this point, and we still have to wait and see exactly what those numbers are going to look like. We do have a new film coming out this weekend, Pray for the Devil, which just has a lot of problems, for me at the very least, theologically speaking. So I don't really have any care to go see that film. That's expected to open to around $7.8 million. Likely had a very small budget, so that film probably going to be able to make its money back, especially coming out in the month of October and the weekend before Halloween. Ticket to Paradise is also hanging around at a 39% hold from the previous weekend. So hey, Ticket to Paradise looking like it is not only going to have had that international numbers to, because it got a slow release, early release internationally, and was able to build up quite a bit of money. It looks like it might be able to move its way towards getting to a break-even point, especially with those kinds of holds. Apparently, must be getting a positive enough reaction. I still haven't heard much about it at all, and have no desire to see it, but there must be an audience out there for it, as it is expected to only drop 39% in its second domestic release. Smile is also hanging around. Again, Smile been out for several weeks now, only dropping 22%. So very cool to see that film is doing as well as it is. Halloween Ends is dropping another 45%, still being held at over 3,000 screens. Now, this makes sense to me only because it is Halloween weekend, and so it's going to have, I think, that natural that natural hold, because people are going to say, hey, if I haven't seen this movie yet, but I want to see a movie on Halloween, maybe Pray for the Devil looks a little bit too creepy. Maybe I've already seen Smile, or maybe just the Smile itself is a little bit too creepy. Maybe Halloween Ends, even though I've heard some bad things about it, will be able to, hold over my Halloween desire, the desire to see a Halloween movie or a Halloween-themed movie in theaters. That's why I suspect that this film is actually stabling off quite a bit. It had a massive drop 2 weeks in a row. From the first week to the second week, it dropped about 80+%. So just insane drops there. But it seems to be of stemming that off just a little bit, and it's not going to be a massive financial success, but the fact that it's already broken even after its first weekend means everything else at this point is just raw profit. The movie Till, which had a very, very, very small limited release, is finally getting a much wider release, as you can see, jumping 982%, as it's now going to be in over 2,000 screens or around that, making $3.9 million. So again, probably not that expensive of a movie, so we'll have to wait and see what those numbers pan out to be. La La Crocodile is also having strong holds, but still has a long ways to go box office wise, and so the chances of that film making its money back probably not very likely. I know there's a lot of interesting things about Terrifier 2 as far as its box office numbers in comparison to its budget. However, I just still have no real desire to go see the film for various reasons. And The Woman King still in the charting there, 31% drop, 31% hold, $1.3 million. But as I mentioned last weekend, because of the diminishing returns on the international community, which it needed in order to have any chance of breaking even, slowing down, this film is likely to end its theatrical run in the next coming weeks with a financial failure in its belt and being in the red. Looking at the current numbers for Black Adam as far as its international is concerned, it's at $155.9 million as of the last update. I suspect that this film probably will get to $250 to $300 million probably by the end of this weekend, if I had to guess. And if it is able to get to the $300 million range, right, if it's able to continue to hold very strong internationally and have a very impressive showing there, and if it gets to $300 million after 2 weeks, then we're talking about a situation where $500 million is definitely within the cards for this movie. If this film does not get to that, if it gets to 250, or maybe it doesn't even get to 250, then we're starting to talk about the chances of this film being almost a guaranteed $400 million, missing out on the $500 million point at, as far as it's at the end of its release. And one of the reasons why I say that is because if we go ahead and pull up the box office chart, because we like to do some charting here over at OMB Reviews. It's a lot of fun. You can find this on my website, ombreviews.com. If we can try and pull up some of these earlier numbers, again, talking about the second weekend numbers. So, as we mentioned before, we had the opening weekend for Black Adam go to be around $140 million, which was better than the international opening for Shang-Chi. So even though Shang-Chi had a stronger domestic opening, Black Adam had a stronger international opening. That's not all that much of a surprise, to be perfectly honest. By the end of its second weekend, though, Shang-Chi ended up having $257 million. And then because of that $257 million, it had a range then of around $368 to $515 million at best. And so if the film, if the film Black Adam is able to get to around that same number, then it's looking like it's going to be in a pretty decent position to be able to possibly pull that off. Also, of course, is a big question of whether or not it gets a China release right now. As far as the recording of this video is concerned, there's no official date on whether it will get a China release, but if it does, then we're talking about a scenario where it has a much higher chance of getting to its break-even point. But this is, again, the number, and this is the reason why I'm comparing it to Shang-Chi. Because if Shang-Chi was able to get to $400 million because of a much stronger domestic showing versus international, then we're looking at a, again, similar showing, only in reverse for that of Black Adam, where it's likely to have a much stronger and more impressive international, especially in comparison to films like Shang-Chi. But we'll have to, of course, wait and see what those second weekend numbers are. And if we try to find Sonic the Hedgehog 2 to see what that film was by the end of its second weekend, we can then also have a second comparison there. I probably have already skipped it at this point. I could probably do the Control F thing, but I am determined to find this on my own, using my own eyes. There it is. So by the end of its second weekend, it had $231 million. Worldwide. And so, as I said, I suspect Black Adam to be above both this and Shang-Chi, at the very least, at the same level as Shang-Chi at the bare minimum, getting to 240 at least by the end of its second weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But in both cases, right, in both scenarios, if we're seeing numbers similar to these two films, again, both of these films capped out around $400 to $430 million. But because of the massive budget of Black Adam, as I mentioned in last week's video, the film needs to make $500 million in order for it to break even based off of current standards. Right now, it's at $216 million in the red. Now, of course, I have not updated this number to include the most recent numbers it's made over the course of the week. I will update this over the weekend, and there probably will be a very delayed box office breakdown video over the weekend because of the Geeks and Gamers meetup. So do be patient on that one. Probably won't be able to record that until sometime Monday morning. On All Hallows Eve or something to that effect. But what are y'all's thoughts about this? Do you think that Black Adam is going to see a similar showing to that of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Shang-Chi? Do you think the international numbers is going to be able to be that much more impressive to just, blow them out of the water and be well over $500 million by the end of its theatrical run? Again, I think that the environment is definitely a lot stronger for Black Adam versus when Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Shang-Chi were out, especially in the international marketplace. But again, all of it's a lot of big ifs at this point, and we can definitely say that the domestic totals are definitely going to be very similar and definitely going to be in line with those other two films. The big question mark, as always, is going to be the international community. But let me know your thoughts about this and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. Also, I was finally able to see a couple of movies that I'll be able to review. I'm going to try and get a review out for Medieval, which I got to see last night. I'm trying to get that out tomorrow morning on the channel before I head out. And also, I was just able to start the film Barbarian. Again, shout out to those studios for letting me have review copies of those movies. But just started Barbarian about 30 minutes in. And oh my goodness, Barbarian is already one of my favorite thrillers of the year, of the last several years. Because, yes, it's just, again, the psychological tone of the film is great. So Nathan Slay, if you're watching this far in, you were right on Barbarian, at least at this point. I have not gotten all the way through, and so that's going to, of course, be a major factor. But the fact that we're already this far in, and I'm enjoying it, says quite a lot. Can't say the same for Medieval, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, not that fire button, honestly, and smash the rumble button. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my locals, Patreon, and Subscribe members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. Starting off with Patreon, Father Luca Illick, Garrett Searles, Joe Horn, Jaimir Ari Hymason, Jeff Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can check out over on YouTube at the channel with the same name, Rosetta Allen, who also has a YouTube channel called Eagle Rider, and Miss Martin Muses, who also has a YouTube channel by the same name. Thank y'all very much, my Patreon supporters. And also for my Subscribe peeps, Matt317, who you can check out over on Twitch at Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man, who you can check out over at xtheboundaries.co. And lastly, my locals members, Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan, How About a Hockey Player, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, For the Win, J.H. Schwalbach, and the great lawyer, Robert Barnes. Thank you all so very much for your support. If you would like for your name to be shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, please make sure to check out the top link in the video description where you can sign up over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or Locals. You get access to things not only like shoutouts, but also to giveaways of 4Ks and Blu-rays, an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger every single month, and also the Chosen of Valhalla live stream for my Chosen of Valhalla members, which we do once a month, and it is a lot of fun. So all of this and plenty of more content, check out those links in the link tree in that top comment down below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. A blessed October to everyone out there. Blessed month of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And as always, God bless.